Hello, I'm Art Schrieber. Phil Nolan has been my great friend for 45 years. He saved my career when in 1968 he helped me produce the now infamous Democratic Convention in Chicago. That's when he became a closet Democrat. I have another secret about Phil I'll tell you in a few minutes. Phil grew up in Indiana. When he wasn't doing chores or playing basketball, he was listening to the radio. After high school, he landed a job as a page at NBC in Chicago. It was 1951 and Phil had his foot in the door of broadcasting. A year later, Phil got his first announcing job at WJBC, Bloomington, Illinois. It paid $33 a week, $1 more than NBC. But now, Phil was talking on the radio. A year later, he was drafted into the Army and sent to Korea as a supply sergeant. How would you like to depend on clean underwear and socks from Phil Nolan? His first job coming home was assistant news director at KSUN, Fairmont, Minnesota. He worked with Hall of Famer George Brooks. And here he took a serious risk one Saturday when he introduced Mrs. John Larson, the Swedish Nightingale, by attempting the introduction in Swedish. This aside, Phil became both news director and program director. When KSUN was sold, he had two job offers, one from WCCO, the other from KALL in Salt Lake. CCO was the holy grail of radio. No one ever left the good neighbor. But it had been a cold Minnesota winter, and wife Katie said, "Let's go west." As program director of KALL, Phil, for the first time, led the station to the top of the Hooper ratings. For 2 years, KALL was Camelot with turntable, great DJs spinning the hits, and the bright dawn of rock and roll. But the owners decided they liked being number one, but they didn't like listening to Jerry Lee Lewis. Time to move on. Next stop, Oklahoma City, where Storrs broadcasting giant KOMA was having trouble. It was a short stay because Storrs decided Phil was needed more in Minneapolis at WDGY. The Twin Cities had multiple stations, not afraid of rock and roll. It was both competitive and, Phil says, a lot of fun. Next call would take Phil and his small family to Stamford, Connecticut, where he became the producer of the Dick Clark radio show. In 1966, Phil became national program manager for Westinghouse Broadcasting Company in New York City. 3 years later, Westinghouse sent Phil to Chicago to manage WIND. The station had lost audience, and with the dial crowded with competition, Phil believed something new was needed, and that's how WIND became the first major market radio station to play oldies. Ratings skyrocketed and advertisers returned. Phil had a 10-year run in Chicago. Always in the back of Phil's mind was owning his own radio station. That opportunity came in Austin, Minnesota. With a 100,000-watt FM and a sturdy AM, Phil said all he needed was a friendly banker and a good idea. The good idea was putting country music on the FM and news talk on the AM. It was 1979, and Phil had found a friendly banker, the right format, and a terrific staff at KAUS, AM and FM. This time his run ran 23 years. Now the secret. Baby Phil Nolan was always crying. It drove his parents to distraction. His parents tried to find a way to stop the crying. One day his mother moved his crib right next to the old Crosley. Baby Phil suddenly stopped crying. A country western tune was coming over the airwaves. Then Baby Phil not only stopped crying, but he was smiling. A commercial was playing, and he's been smiling ever since.